let's get into the big topic of open source, something that we actually say at Red Hat.
This is so awesome.
We are an open culture that believes in importance of
What is that process that a developer, or let's say,
as the Kubernetes ecosystem really boomed.
Hello and welcome to this week's Ask an OpenShift Ask an OpenShift Expert Office Hours live stream. I am co-host Andrew Sullivan, joined by the amazing and awesome Mr. Jonny Rickard. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm good. I just thought we were talking in the pre-show. I just watched my dogs ravage a squirrel, so I'm still a little shocked from that.
I was listening to the intro music play, and at the same time, I'm logging into an OpenShift cluster, and I'm doing other things, and then I heard the switch to the last little video bit, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta find the right tab, and so it's just one of those days. That's how things are going. I ran out of the office a moment ago, and the cat thought that we were under attack and went skittering because. So years ago, I used to work with a guy who, former army guy. And his thing was like, he hated when other people were running and he didn't know why. Because it's like, he sees somebody running by and it's like, where are you going? Like, do I need to be running? Should we all be going this way? And the cat is kind of the same way. The cat doesn't like, where are we going? Why is something happening? I need to run too. And yeah.
What is the emergency? Please stop and tell me.
Yeah. So, the dog meanwhile just looks at me like you're an idiot and, goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
Anyways, so welcome to today's stream. Thank you everybody who's joining us live. So today we're talking about, I don't want to call it a continuation of the what's new in OpenShift 4.20 because it's really not, because we are splitting off from the main what's new and focusing specifically on what's new for administrators. So it's been a little bit since we did one of these. I think the last time we did it was 4.18 maybe, Jonny?
Yeah,
so back towards the beginning of the year, when we do these streams, we pull out the things that Jonny and I think are relevant and interesting to administrators. This goes back to our roots where the stream was originally Ask an OpenShift Admin, not Ask an OpenShift Expert. So we want to highlight things kind of across the different sets of the way that they divided up and the PMs divided up is across the various pillars. What's that thing? It's not like Metcalfe's law or there's one of those, laws that's like communication follows the organization or the organization structure. Like for Red Hatters, if you look at the What's New presentation and the way it's broken up, it's approximately broken up by the way that the product management teams are organized. So Jonny and I come through and we slice across all of that. We try and put it into context for administrators. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling. Conway's law. Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you. Which is the one where it's like the effectiveness is inversely proportional to the number of members on the team. That one might be Metcalfe's, or it's like as you add more people, it's more communication, which reduces the overall effectiveness and stuff like that. Anyways. So that's what we're going to talk about today. As always, every time Jonny and I do one of these, we both pull out like 20 different topics that we want to cover, and inevitably we only cover maybe 4 or 5. So we'll try and get through as many as we can. I know Jonny's got a demo of some things. I've got a 4.20 cluster up that I want to show some things. I've also got a 4.18 or 4.19 cluster that I want to show some tech preview things that are now GA. I just don't have a 4.20 cluster that has all the things inside of it yet. So yeah, any top of mind things this week, Jonny?
Last day for call for proposals is today for Summit. So if you have a proposal that you want for Summit this year, or next year rather, you might want to get that in today because it's dead after this. After today, I think the nominations go out in like December or January, or the notifications go out in December, January, and then that's it. And then next week we have Portworx coming on, and the week after is Thanksgiving in the U.S., so we're not going to have a stream that week. And then the week after is going to be Christian Stark, and he's going to come on and do multi-cluster observability. And I think we're gonna try and get at least one more guest. It's the one that we've been trying to make contact with again from CMAC to see hopefully if we can't lock them into a Wednesday in December before we go on a break.
Yeah, I know it's good to have a bunch of things on the calendar. And I was a few minutes late joining our pre-show because I was on another planning call for an internal thing that we call the Power 90. And there's a number of good topics lined up for that, which is helpful because I steal those topics and we use them here on the stream. It's nice to be able to reuse materials and, take knowledge that you've learned and reapply it and share it.
That's right.
Anil, could you please share the learning path for OpenShift AI? Let's see. Let me see if I have a quick link to that or not. We might have to. Here we go.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share. I'll share my screen. So Johnny just shared the link. Wow, what is up with this screen share thing? Yeah, how come it put our windows behind? That's weird. That's worse. Ooh, there we go. There's the one I'm looking for. So that way, we're tiny, but the window we're sharing is big and not.
Yeah, that was.
Always add new feature. Apparently I've reached that age where new features are not oh look shiny new, but more oh why are you changing things that worked?
Why?
Yeah. So this is the link that Johnny just shared. So this is the OpenShift AI learning path. There's a ton of different information inside of here. You can see all of these different learning paths each have things that you can come and check out. So the introduction to OpenShift AI, and it walks through just a whole bunch of stuff that's inside of here. There is learning paths for all kinds of different things inside of here. So I don't want to highlight just this, just the OpenShift AI one. If you go to the interactive learning portal here, you can find all kinds of resources inside of here. Learning paths, individual courses and classes and stuff like that. There's a number of things that leverage, now I can't think of the name of the platform, but where you can actually access live running OpenShift clusters and RHEL instances and stuff like that, depending on what you're doing. So there's a ton of information here. This is one of the assets that I always encourage folks. If you ever ask oh, how do I get started with OpenShift? You can start here. All of this stuff is free. I'm not logged in. You see, I'm not logged in up here. And all of this stuff is freely available. You can come in, you can try it out. As you go through these, and you look at various things that are inside of here, if you want to get hands-on, this is telling you go to the developer sandbox. Free resource, you go in, you log in, you have access to OpenShift resources immediately out of the box. If you want to deploy inside of your environment, you can also utilize a developer subscription. Developer subscriptions give you access to, I think it's up to 16 nodes of OpenShift, and that can be deployed as either physical or virtual. So if you have, vSphere, if you have Rev, if you have OpenStack, if you have AWS, right, whatever you're using, you can go in, you can deploy up to 16 nodes of OpenShift completely free, self-supported, so it's not supported, but you can use that. The developer subscriptions are good for 365 days, and then you renew your developer subscription, which is free, and then you can continue to use that. Just note that developer subscriptions, you can only use them for non-production single user use cases. So, me creating a cluster and using it and testing things out, I want to learn how to do bare metal OpenShift. I want to learn how to do service mesh. I want to do whatever. All that's perfectly good and fine. If I want Johnny to be able to use my cluster, then we would want to use you don't necessarily have to go all the way to a full-blown OpenShift subscription. There's also developer for teams, or no, what do we call it? So Red Hat developer subscription for teams. So this is the intermediate. So this is if you're doing development activities, development type things, you're not pushing applications into production and stuff like that. Developer subscription for teams is the way to go there. So lots of resources. I'll also point out, because my marketing people will I'd say they'll give me a stern talking to, but they won't. They'll just gently remind me because they're super nice and awesome. Try it out. OpenShift.com is another way where you can go. You can see it has a direct link to the sandbox. It gives you all of the other ways that you can go and get started with OpenShift, various trials for the different editions of OpenShift, so on and so forth. So yeah, sorry for the tangent. Thanks for sharing that link, Johnny.
Yep.
So let's talk about some OpenShift 4.20 things. So one of the first things that I wanted to highlight and showcase is if we switch over here, we have and I'm going to put this link into the chat and share it out. So as of yesterday? Yesterday was when the marketing launch for OpenShift 4.20 started. So you can see here, this is the big blog post that announces all of the features and everything else. If there's a handful of things down and through here that have interactive demos embedded in the blog post. So if you're curious about leader worker set, for example, you can take a look at this demo and it walks through and shows you different things associated with it so that you can get an idea of how it works, why you care about it, where you want to use it, that type of stuff. So leader worker set, to your point about OpenShift AI, Anil, so leader worker set is one of the features added in 4.20 to help enable AI workloads on top of OpenShift. So in many ways, OpenShift is turning into a platform for Red Hat's own things in the same way that RHEL is a platform, right? RHEL is a platform that we build OpenShift and OpenStack and various other things on top of. Now you're seeing things like OpenShift AI and the various developer things and stuff like that, all being built on top of OpenShift. So it's exciting to me. It's fun to see it evolve like that.
It's dog fooding too, right? Where it's like, all right, well, now we're putting the rubber to the road and money where our mouth is type of thing. It's like we're using this too. It's internal. We're building things. We're hosting things. So it's not just you do it and we learn. It's everybody's kind of doing it.
Yeah. I'll point out that that's not true of just like how we ship our products. IBM Cloud Paks is another example, right? If you are a Cloud Pak customer, you're running OpenShift underneath the covers. But it's also true of a lot of the services that we do internally. So for any Red Hat folks or even somebody who's interacted with their account team, if you've seen a demo from demo.redhat.com, the majority of those are running in OpenShift bare metal clusters on top of OpenShift virtualization. So all of the OpenShift virtualization stuff is running either nested or on top of there. A bunch of the other ones are running inside of there. It's we definitely drink our own champagne, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so this blog post, you can see it's a fairly lengthy one. It goes into a bunch of different detail, helps to communicate some of the value associated with it. So like Zero Trust Workload Identity Manager tells you what it does, tells you when you may want to use it. We also have a great demo there for that one. But just a ton of stuff inside of here. But this is just the blog post. Johnny posted that red.ht what's new link. That'll take you over to the main landing page for what's new and what's next. Oops, what's new? If I go here, this has both the recording as well as the slides so that you can go and look at those and see all of the great stuff that the product management team presented. Shankar, future episode of OpenShift, resource/cost optimization, container/node, automated CPU and memory right sizing tools, etc. Yeah, I think that's definitely one we can talk about. I don't know that we've had the cost management. Have we had the cost management folks on before, Johnny?
I don't remember.
How and
I don't think so. I think we had
John Spinks.
Maybe a long time ago. I don't know. I remember we had Christina. Yes. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this right, and I think it's just off the cuff. Yeah, she came on and she did some stuff like that, around that she'd done from consulting, but I don't know if we've actually, since then, I don't know if we've had anybody.
Yeah, we should definitely invite them on. So it's, I know the folks on the back end, I said John Spinks, so not a secret, but not a story that I normally tell. John and I actually used to sit literally right next to each other when we worked at our previous company together. 5 days a week, shared a cubicle wall back in the office days, you know. RHope 9, yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what RHope 9 is talking about there, where it taunts you with operator instead of ecosystem. If you look in an OpenShift 4.20 cluster, they've changed this over here. So this used to say operator hub. It's now the software catalog. So, and there is a bug here. You notice that when I went to software catalog and then all projects, it showed me the list of projects. That is a known bug that they're working on fixing.
Okay, because I hit that earlier and I was like, why is this doing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So if you switch to one of the other namespaces or other projects, it'll give you the full list of them, and then you can install from there like normal. But yeah, for whatever reason, the software catalog shows you the list of them. Yes, so Trident is, and I reached out to our EPM, our engineering partner manager on the Red Hat side for NetApp. So they are looking in to find out when NetApp will be publishing their updated certified operator for OpenShift 4.20. If you are using Trident, so Trident 2510 is supported with OpenShift 4.20. You just need to deploy using the Helm chart or the manual method. It's just not yet in the catalog here. You can see if I do a quick search there, it doesn't show up. But if I come over here, so this is an OpenShift 4.18 cluster. Oops. Operator hub, and if I search in here, come on, buddy. So Trident shows up as both the certified and the community here. So I'm sure they'll get that fixed, get that sorted out, relatively quickly. Tools that can help prevent waste of resources due to wrong sizing. Yep. Yeah, we can definitely go into it. I think we talked about this a while ago. I want to say in like episodes in the 80s or 90s, where we talked about HPA and VPA, so horizontal pod autoscaling and vertical pod autoscaling. Those are two of the methods that you can do that. Of course, the applications have to be tolerant of those things and all of that. But the cost analysis, or not cost analysis. What is the cost operator? Why am I not thinking of this? Anyways, there is an operator specifically for cost management. So you can see here cost management. When you install that one, it surfaces up a bunch of information and does a bunch of reporting where you can do, look at how much individual, projects, pods, etc. are costing. You assign a value to those things, and then it tells you how much it is. Using Quay.io. Using Quay.io for what?
I think he's talking about, that was during the context of the Trident stuff.
Oh, like when are they going to switch from using, I don't even know what they use for their container images. I don't know if they use Docker Hub or GitHub, or I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. Now that I've gotten completely distracted, Jonny, I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about, including one that you wanted to demo. Do you want to kick off?
Yeah, let me find my stuff now since I've got 8 billion windows open.
Yeah, RHope 9, they published a Docker.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know, that team is pretty good about responding on GitHub and stuff like that. If you open a GitHub issue and ask, you might be able to get a response from one of their engineering folks as to why they haven't made the switch.
Damn. All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the, and it's actually something I'm super excited about, is external secrets operator. If you're not familiar with the external secrets operator, it acts as an abstraction between a Kubernetes secret and a backend of whatever. So some provider, like whether you're using AWS IAM or Azure or Google or whatever, instead of keeping your secrets in your repo or creating actual secret resources, you can create these external secrets and then reference, the backend that you're using. And then what it will do is it will create an actual Kubernetes secret inside the namespace that you want. Another cool feature that they recently implemented was it's called a push secret. So imagine that you have a secret that exists in a namespace, but you need to take the content of that secret content from it and move it into another namespace, right? So maybe it's a key you want to share between 3 or 4 different applications or whatever. And what you can do is you can create this push secret that references the back end. The push secret will take the existing secret, put it into your back end, and then you would have a reference back to that push secret. And it just makes secrets management really easy. It makes GitOps a lot simpler. You can actually template out a lot of the secret material or the secret manifest before you deploy them, and then you don't have to worry about having like sealed secrets or anything like that. Nothing crazy in your repo. You don't have to worry about getting owned or anything. So this has been a long time coming. I think my team specifically has been talking to the product team trying to get ESO in for. It's been years. It really has. It's been years. It's been challenging. So it's cool that it's finally here. I'm glad to see it, and I'll walk you through how to install it. And then I'm actually going to do a provider called Doppler, which is it's an open source authentication provider, and you can do. I haven't quite figured out how to configure OIDC. It looks like it does like pass through for OIDC, but at least for like secrets management, it acts like a vault, like a key value store for Vault, and you can do some other cool stuff with it. So kick the tires on that, and then we'll also put external secrets up.
And Jonny, just because I think most people, I'm going to assume most people understand what Kubernetes secrets are, right? Which is just obfuscated data stored in an etcd entry. How does external secrets operator compare or work with or alongside something like Hashi Vault?
Yeah, so it because the external secrets operator doesn't actually have any content, and like you said, a secret in Kubernetes is just some obfuscation. It's a base 64 encoded value, right? And so a vault is an actual vault, so it encrypts that data, so that way if you were to get it, it would be located locally. It's useless to you. So external secrets is that bridge between a backend provider that secures the actual content and Kubernetes. It's the bridge between the backend and Kubernetes. And so you would just create this manifest which references the backend, and then once it gets created, it would actually create the secret on the cluster itself. But the important part is that, like, when you're talking about automation and you're talking about GitOps and sharing and reusability, you're not ever actually sharing any secret material. You're literally just sharing like a manifest. And so it makes it quite nice when you're trying to roll out applications and you don't want to have stuff in repos. You don't want to do sealed secrets or anything like that. So
Got it.
let's see here. All right, so I'm just gonna share this whole thing. I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna share my tab. This one.
Oh, I see.
You see that?
Sure.
It's just black, right?
Yeah, it's just black with your mouse cursor.
What the?
Did you update?
Well, this is all. This is Fedora.
43.
Okay, I might actually have to join from my Mac. So, just kidding. God dang it. Let me see if I can share my whole window. Let me see if that's better. Oh man,
Jonny, I love it when you do demos.
it's just nothing ever works, dude.
Oh, hey, there we go.
Okay. Oh my God, that doesn't work, does it?
Yep. Yeah.
You see it?
Good. Yeah.
All right, come on, little buddy.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say now your tab is just blank, but I see the wheel spinning.
Okay. Yeah, this is awesome. So let me. All right, here we go. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Right.
You might need to shrink your window down a little bit. It's pretty tiny.
All right. Let me know when you can actually see.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna install the external secrets operator. let's actually, let's not get too click happy. So again, this is 4.20. This just released, and it's going to create a namespace called the external secrets operator namespace. Pretty straightforward. So because I'm using Doppler, like there's already out of the box providers that it supports. Like it supports Vault, and by it I mean Red Hat's build of external secrets. It supports Red Hat Vault, or my gosh, HashiCorp Vault, AWS. I think it does Azure in the GKE authentication providers. So for us to be able to reach out to Doppler, we need to actually set up a network policy through the external secrets configuration. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and create this. And I'm just going to copy and paste stuff so that way it's easy. And by easy, it means it's not going to work. All right. All right, so the gist of what's going on here is we're adding this section here, right? So we're saying for this external secrets core controller, allow an egress on 4.43 TCP, and then we're just naming it allow the external secrets egress. Go ahead and create that. And then what we can do is when we create so you can either create a secret store, which is namespace scoped, or you can create a cluster secret store, which is cluster scoped. And so what these are, this is that backend that I was just talking about. So if you had like an existing HashiCorp Vault, or if you had a Azure Key Manager or AWS stuff, whatever, you would just configure your secret store to talk to that provider.
And to be clear, you said network policy, but it's not a network policy in the, like, it's not a Kubernetes API network policy thing. It's a configuration within External Secrets Manager that says, I am authorized or I am allowed to reach out to this specific backend.
Yes. Yeah. And if your provider uses a different port, then you would obviously change the port, but 4.43 is what Doppler uses. So
I just realized that I'm sitting here shaking my head, and then I have the cameras turned off. It's full screen on your.
yes, I do it all the time. I actually I'll point to stuff on the screen and nobody can see what I'm doing. That's pretty funny. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a cluster secret store, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, come on, we're gonna define our provider, which in this case is Doppler, and then I'm gonna create a secret with this key in here. And so I'm gonna create the secret from the shell, but basically it's just a token that I generate in Doppler, and I'll show you how I do it. But because this is a global or a cluster wide, we actually put the namespace here. If we were just doing a secret store within a namespace, this namespace value or namespace key wouldn't be required.
Does that mean that you don't have to be cluster admin to create or add new secret stores?
I don't believe so. Maybe not secret stores, but cluster secret stores. Obviously, I think you would.
Okay.
Yeah, I honestly, I would have to just try it. All right, so I created a external secret, or I'm sorry, I created a normal Kubernetes secret with that API key in it. And what that's doing is it's just referencing this up here. So if I go into my Doppler, which is doppler.com, create a new account, and it's using GitHub for authentication. And then inside of my project, it creates like different environments. So out of the box, it creates like a dev and a staging and a production environment. In this case, I'm just using the production. I call the project AOE, Asking OpenShift Expert. I added a new secret here, and kind of like we actually do this in the validated patterns, where with Vault we have an Ansible task that will, you can say, hey, do I want to provide the key material, or do I want to auto generate the key material, right? And so it makes it really nice when you don't care what the password is or what the key is or what the value is. It says, hey, I have a value, or I have a key that needs to be secret sauce or secret or whatever. I don't care what the value is. I just need it to be something. And so you can actually, within our patterns, can auto-generate that value for you. And something that you can do here is you can actually do the same thing, and you can generate a new key and all that. So it's pretty cool because now you don't have to worry about actually putting passwords in or coming up with a password or anything like that. You can actually just let it figure it out. And if like I use Bitwarden all the time, and I don't even know half of my passwords. Like I just like if Bitwarden goes away, I think I will actually be lost because all my stuff is gone.
Yeah,
Um,
same for me. I don't.
yeah.
I know one password, the password to Bitwarden.
Yeah, exactly. And like I don't know anything else. Like don't even try and get me to log into something. So if you ever see me on my phone or without my phone, I'm like typing it out. That's because I'm trying to remember what my master password is. Like, all right. So I'm just gonna save this to update the secret, and then I'm going to create an external secret now. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna actually go back just one step, and I'm gonna create a new namespace, and I'm gonna call it. All right, I actually did prepare for this. I can't remember what I called the namespace because I've been talking too much.
It's either too much or not enough caffeine, Johnny.
Dude, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying to cut back. It's not going well though. Oh, let's see, demo. All right, so now I'm gonna do. Bam. All right, so we have a secret or an external secret that we're gonna call secret sauce. We're gonna create it in this namespace. The secret store reference, right? So we're going back to our this actually be cluster secret store. This is going to be our back end. And so let me just make sure I got the secret.
I appreciate how aggressive the helper tooltips are in the.
Yeah, it's like just calm down.
Our Hope 9. Isn't tea more caffeinated like than coffee? I think I remember hearing that somewhere.
Store. All right, Doppler. It honestly, it doesn't matter because I am a hot mess. Like I basically I wake up, and pretty much from the time that I wake up until the time I go to sleep, I'm like a 4-year-old. I'm just like bouncing off the walls, and yeah, basically go until I crash, and then yeah, then I pout until it's like really bedtime, and then yeah, it's I'm a mess, dude. It's pretty much the worst. All right, so this external secret, again, like we have a cluster secret store called Doppler Cluster Secret Store, and then we're just saying, hey, create the secret. But it looks like we're probably still waiting on some of the pods to roll from when we were doing the we added that config. So what we can do in the meantime too. Yeah, here we go. Bam. Oh, awesome. So maybe I just wasn't patient, which is very possible. All right. So all right. So if we go back and we look at, I need to save this as a shortcut.
I do appreciate having the favorites available. I don't know what release we added that in,
Yeah.
but it is handy.
Yeah, I actually learned this from them last week, and I was like, all right, you know what, this is actually really nice. All right, so see, I've obviously messed something up. So we have a secret error, cannot get secret data from the provider. So this, I believe, is because I am because of that config that I put in. I think it's still rolling out. So let me just see here. All right, so what we'll do here is I'll create a secret store, a local one. All right, and then this, oh my God.
It's still fighting you.
It is. Well, so, and I changed my Tmux profile, so now I have to hold shift to, I have to hold shift to be able to copy, and it's just kicking my butt because I never remember to do it.
No. Instead
Right.
of, well, that's the way it usually is, at least on my systems when I want to copy from the terminal, Control Shift.
Oh, and I think I realized that I'm an idiot here. So, well, let's see here. So we've got this. Yes, so demo namespace. All right, so I'm going to burn this thing down and then redo it. But yeah, so basically what's going on is it's trying to talk to the provider, and it can't because I messed something up. So I've got this secret store. It's ready. Let's see if my external secret store is ready, or a cluster secret store. All right, so this one is not ready yet. So we'll go ahead and we'll just create another secret. Cat is so. Oh, come on. Hold shift down, you idiot. All right, so I'm going to delete this dude. And now I'm rushing, so it looks like I'm clicking fast, which I am. But
It's no pressure. We're all watching you.
yeah, I know. It's going well. It's going well. Oh my God, I did it again. All right, let's just do this. All right, so again, just Doppler secret store using the local namespace secret store. We're going to call it secret sauce. It's going to get created. And so now we can see that we've got the external secret. It's ready. And then if I come over here, I should have a secret called secret sauce. Holy cow, that was really difficult. But if we look at, we can see that I've got my secret key, which matches what I have up in Doppler.
Yep.
And then if I were to, decode this, actually, I wonder if I can actually see this from. That's click on it. I wonder, oh yeah, here we go. Reveal values. So then we can see like WC3 is the last three, and then we've got WC3 here. So as you can see, like that was really difficult. I made that really hard. But the idea is you have a backend, like a vault or whatever, in this case Doppler. You have your secrets stored in there, and then you set up the external secrets to reference that backend, and then also create the secrets. So as you saw, all I created was the external secret, and there's nothing in it except for like where it starts and then where it ends. And you can do things like pull secrets. You can do things like cloud credentials. So if you had a JSON file or something like that, and you can pass all that stuff in there. You can actually template out like the Grafana data sources and push those around. It's actually very powerful, and it's an awesome templating engine that you can also use with GitOps. And it is literally something I was very excited to hear that went tech preview, and then I'm even more excited that it's GA. And I'm glad that we did it because I think it's going to be huge for our customers using OpenShift.
Yeah. It has, of course, secrets are used all the time with applications and stuff like that are being deployed.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to give the app teams tools in order to help them, I'm going to say, more effectively and more securely manage secrets and stuff like that. It's also applicable for us. Like, what was it, 3 weeks ago, however long ago we did the workload availability stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like fence agent remediation, which has to be able to talk to the BMC, you can feed it a secret for the BMC credentials, for example. And so being able to keep them into, something like Vault or Doppler or one of those, just makes that easier. I'd be curious to know if there's, like you were talking about Bitwarden. Like Bitwarden is our corporate password management tool. Like, I wonder if it will eventually be possible to hook into tools like that, so that way, I have one source of truth without having to change systems. But that's
there is a Bitwarden plugin. I didn't have enough time to mess with it. I'll actually show you if I can find it really quick. I saw it earlier. But yeah, there's like an actual out of the box Bitwarden plugin that you can configure. And I don't know if you noticed this, Andrew. This is me doing my best to actually use the GUI exclusively for all this. Like I'm actually, it's kicking my butt a little bit, but I was like, I'm gonna try and do all this stuff through the GUI today instead of like jumping around between the shell. Yeah, I thought it might be this or it might be. Anyways, there is a Bitwarden plugin that I saw. We actually have documentation on it. I just didn't get around to messing with it. So that might be something that we can, if we're looking for a topic or whatever, we can just kind of dive in on it.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, that's the big one for especially the external secrets. There's way more. I could actually show. But it'd be cool to like do like a full episode on it or something like that, or maybe half an episode where we do like push secrets and stuff like that. Where there's a project that I'm working on where we're building out clusters through ACM, and so like basically instead of creating a secret for each cloud provider each time, we're actually creating the secret using like global pool secrets and global cloud credentials, and then we're going and grabbing them and then reusing them and pushing them around, and then it's kind of cool because now you can use that push secret to actually go get the kube config from the provisioned resource and then create the auto import secret with it, and it's all automated. It's all in GitOps, and you're not doing anything crazy. It's all these like part of the features of the operators that we're deploying. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it for external secrets. I mean, like otherwise, it'll just be a mess. Another thing that we were gonna just kind of touch on was like we saw it last week in the talk with the UXG team where we have this fleet management dropdown, and so another feature. Well, you saw it last week was the fleet virtualization. So just I was trying to get enough clusters provisioned today to where we could do like the multi-cluster, the global hub managed migration. And so what it is where you have a global hub at the very, so imagine like the mind flare at the very top, and then you'd have like your hubs underneath that would also have their managed clusters, and then you can actually migrate clusters between those hubs. But I could not get enough clusters provisioned in order to do that quickly, so we're gonna have to come back to that. That's I think going to be a pretty fun demo to do, but it all falls under this fleet management and some of the awesomeness of ACM.
Yeah. So when ACM 215 ships, which is soon, trademark, we should definitely have them on because there's a lot of really cool stuff that they've got going on in ACM 215. Multi-cluster or fleet virtualization is another one that's really cool. So if you've seen the recent, actually I can just show if you don't have it up there, but if you've seen the recent OpenShift virtualization user interface, it has a tree view now, and it's adding multi-cluster tree view into in the future. So let's see, share. Uh-oh, better make sure I pick the right window.
Yeah.
So if we look, all right, get out of here. If we look in here for virtualization and look at virtual machines, so as we look, we've got within this single cluster, I've got all of my projects and then each one of the virtual machines that is inside of here. ACM is adding multi-cluster. So at this all projects level, I'll have another level below it, above it, one for each cluster. And so I'll be able to look at that. One of the things that's tech preview right now is with OpenShift virtualization is cross-cluster live migration.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be basically with a virtual machine, you'll be able to select, like, oh, I want to do a migration, and I can go across clusters with that migration. One of the things that got added to OpenShift Virtualization 4.20 is the ability to target a specific node with live migrations. So we can see here, my virtual machine is on, let's see, what node are you on? So Sapphire Goal is on node 7 at the moment, so I can select migration, compute migration. I can go to, say, node 8.
And this is relatively new too, right? This is a new feature, being able to select a node within the same OpenShift cluster, right?
Yep, yeah, this is
Okay.
new to 4.20.
Okay.
Was when this got added. So, oh, it went to, yeah, so there's a bug. Turns out, so sometimes in the UI, when you trigger the migrations, it doesn't actually set the right field. So you see I targeted node 8, but it actually went to node 6. So there is a known bug. It should be fixed in the next release. But if you're doing it from the CLI, if I go to my virtual machine migration, oh, come on. I don't remember the name of the object now. Virtual machine instance migration. So if I look at this, and you see this is the one created just now. So what's missing, and again, it only happens occasionally, is in the spec, there should be another item here that says additional selectors, and then I'll have the node name selector. Effectively, what happens is the operator, the webhook on the back end, merges that in with the pod selector for, or the pod for the new node. Sorry, the pod that gets created as the destination for the live migration. And that's how it targets the node. But there's some kind of bug when triggering it to the UI. I've done it 20 times. This is maybe the second time that it's done that. So only drink coffee in the mornings. Yeah, I only drink coffee in the morning too, but I usually have 3 cups.
Yeah, I get to a point where it's like it starts to even taste bad. You know what I mean? Like I just have so much, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too is, especially in this environment, where once we start talking, I get excited. Like I really do love this stuff, and when I start getting excited, it's hard for me to slow myself down. So that's where last week I was like, I need Sully here because I can't pace myself without Sully being here. Like I am a disaster to be around without this dude here.
And apologies for not being here last week. I got pulled into a last minute customer call.
Oh no, man, it's all good.
I say call escalation, which those are always fun ones. So I for anybody who's watching, I checked in with Jonny, made sure that Jonny was okay without me before joining that other call. But I do. It is fun to be here. It is fun to see all the stuff that's going on, and like you said, like I genuinely find OpenShift to be exciting and interesting. So it makes this a lot easier, even if it is hard to keep up with these days. There's so many operators, so many operators.
Yeah.
I'll switch over and talk about a few things. So one, where to go? So here's the what's new. Okay, so here's this is the announcement product enhancement advisory. So this is the errata that announced OpenShift Virtualization 4.20 is GA. So one thing to note, so OpenShift releasing has a couple of different things that happen inside of there. So when I look at my OpenShift 4. Well, this is a 4.18 cluster. When I look at my OpenShift 4.20 cluster or any OpenShift cluster, if I come down here underneath the cluster operators, all of these ship as one package. So when I go and install OpenShift 4.20, all of these are going to be they're one holistic thing that gets even updated between the Z streams, so 4.20.1, 2, 3, etc. These all get updated together. But there's a lot of other features and capabilities that are, we call them platform aligned or platform operators, that are built on top of that and align with the platform but they don't have necessarily the same release date. So OpenShift virtualization is one of those. So with OpenShift 4.20, you'll have OpenShift virtualization 4.20, so on and so forth. But the platform-aligned operators, they have a month window to release with the new OpenShift version. So you can see this in a couple of different areas. So like historically, when I do that, so if I go to docs.redhat.com, I go to documentation for OpenShift. So I'm on the version 4.20 documentation. Like until the virtualization 4.20 operator was released, this virtualization section wasn't here. And that's one of the ways that you can kind of tell that. There's a couple of others that are like that. Some operators are not platform aligned. So for example, ACM, right? ACM released 2.14, their next version is 2.15. It doesn't come until another several weeks, which puts it outside of that 1 month release window. So that can sometimes cause confusion, but just be aware that there is cluster operators, there's platform operators, and then there is additional things on top of the cluster, and they all can align or not sometimes, depending on how it goes. So let's see, some other things. I swear one of these is the slides that we had, at least I thought it was. I thought I had the slides for the what's new up. Let's see. We'll go with this one. All right, I'll get there eventually. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about here up in the spotlight features. Virtualization, of course, is always a big one. So this load-aware rebalancing, I think, is really interesting in that it brings the ability for the cluster to proactively migrate workload in order to eliminate contention. So what does that mean? So CPU in particular is what's considered a compressible resource, meaning that when the node hits 100% CPU utilization, the kernel scheduler kicks in, right? CFS, it does its thing, and basically it meters out access to the CPU by introducing latency to the CPU calls. We can influence that and reserve resources, if you will, by doing things like CPU requests or CPU limits for our pods. But ultimately, by default, Kubernetes takes no action when there is CPU contention happening at the host level. Memory contention, yes, because historically Kubernetes, there's not been swap. There is no memory overcommitment, so when the host hits memory pressure and it hits that hard limit, it will terminate pods. CPU, it never will. The pods, as it gets more and more overloaded, the pods just get less and less individual CPU time. So this load-aware rebalancing effectively uses PSI, which is pressure stall information, coming from the kernel in order to determine when there is CPU contention happening, and then it will take action to move virtual machines off of that node. So what does that actually look like? So if we scroll down through this set of slides, right, resource utilization is not static, right, changing on each host, blah, blah, blah. Right, so load-aware balancing, again, it uses pressure stall information, which is actually a Facebook project that was introduced into the kernel a while back. And that is how we get that data out of the cluster. So if you're going to use this, the first thing you have to do is you have to add a kernel parameter through machine config to turn on the PSI information being exported from the kernel. And then after that, you use the descheduler. So the descheduler will take two actions here once we configure it. One is it looks for those contention metrics, and then if they exceed the threshold, it will take action to move that workload. And by move, I mean basically it triggers it for eviction, which with a virtual machine triggers a live migration. The other thing that it does is it will create this soft taint down here so that it avoids, the scheduler avoids putting workload back onto that same node. So the soft taint here, what that means is it sets a prefer no schedule, or prefer no schedule. I don't know, it's somewhere in here. Now I'm having trouble remembering. Anyways, it sets a taint that's basically, please don't assign workload here unless you have to, in order to avoid continuously, right, scheduling it right back to the same node that it was on, and therefore not fixing and or exacerbating the problem inside of there. So what's the effectiveness here? So what I'm looking at here on this particular graph is, you can see here at the beginning, I have a bunch of different nodes, each one represented in green. Each one is very busy inside of here. And each one of those is also, the pink lines represent the CPU contention that's happening inside of there. So once it detects that that's happening, it begins taking action in order to move the workload around, again, soft taint, influence the scheduling of those. And ultimately the goal is to come out where I have all of my nodes approximately equally balanced, and all of my workload is able to function without having to be throttled. So lots of details inside of here. We can certainly go into spend time in a different stream and go into a lot of the low-level details. But the thing that I want to show here is, one, it pulls from Prometheus to get that information. And then two, we have a number of different thresholds that we can use in order to trigger when that rebalancing, I'm going to call it rebalance, but when it happens. So this asymmetric low is the one that's recommended. The way to read this slide is a little bit weird. Essentially, if you look at it this way, so horizontally across the rows, is CPU utilization. So let's say that my cluster average CPU utilization is 50%. So if the node is 50% minus 10%, so 40% or less, it's considered underutilized. Appropriately utilized would be within that 50% plus, minus or plus 10%, and then 50% plus 10, so 60% would be considered overutilized. So low, medium, high just widens that window of what's appropriately utilized. See, the asymmetric low is the recommended setting, which is basically the low threshold is set to the cluster average. And then the high threshold, this is mislabeled, the high threshold is plus 10% over that average. So if my average cluster utilization is 50%, any node that's above 60% would be considered overutilized. And then it would take the action of potentially moving that workload or triggering a reschedule of that workload. So here, prefer no schedule. That's the one I was looking for. So it does. It is effective. I have a lab here, but in the interest of time, because that's why I brought up one of these instances that I've got up. I was going to show what this looks like and actually trigger some workload and watch it rebalance and all that, but that takes about 15 minutes. And honestly, I want to talk about some new things. But if anybody wants to see that, let us know in the chat or in the comments, or reach out to us. If you're not watching us live, reach out to us via email, Sully, S-U-L-L-Y at redhat.com, or Jonny, J-O-N-N-Y at redhat.com. We're happy to, we can do a demo of that. We can invite some other folks and talk about some other things with regard to not just workload balancing, but like overcommit and all that other stuff. Swap is now in beta, I think, upstream, if I remember correctly. So that's another topic that we can cover when it comes to resource management and all that stuff. RHOPE 9, yeah, logging in COO, which is observability, cluster observability operator is COO. Wow, that took a long time for me to think of that one.
I was lost. I was like, I don't even know. So
yeah, another way you can tell when they're, it's not every time, but you can tell when, let me think of how to say this. You can't necessarily tell when they're platform aligned, but you can tell when they have an asynchronous release cycle is oftentimes when they have different version numbers. So OpenShift virtualization is one of the few that aligns its version number with the OpenShift version number. But if you look for, like, if I come here to the software catalog.
yeah, GitOps is like 118.
Yeah, OpenShift logging here, you see is 6.3. If I look at observability, if I spell it right, so cluster observability operator, you can see this one is 1.2.2. So having different versions from the cluster version is an indicator that it's at least a not a platform or not a cluster operator that's going to release at the same time as the rest of the cluster update. Let's see, where'd my slides go? Man, I'm having trouble keeping track of these slides. Here we go. A couple of other things. So bring your own OIDC identity provider. I think this is an interesting one. This allows you to, use whatever OIDC provider you happen to prefer or you want to use, as opposed to, I think before it was just, you had to do it indirectly through Keycloak, I think.
Yeah.
So with this, now you can directly integrate with OIDC for things like multi-factor authentication. Whereas previously, if you wanted OIDC, I believe you had to go through Keycloak, which is why this is a big deal. ZTWIM, I don't know enough about that one. I don't know if you can speak to that.
No, not enough to be useful, but it's 50 Spire.
Yeah, same. So we should, another one on our list, although at this rate it'll probably be in the new year, bring the security folks on so that way they can talk about a lot of the changes that have happened and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For example, I saw that there is now a CIS benchmark for OpenShift virtualization. I think it's a CIS benchmark. So there's more of these things that are happening constantly. Or no, maybe it's a hardening guide for OpenShift virtualization. One or both of those has happened. User namespaces. This is one that's been talked about for a long time. So user namespaces, and somewhere down here in the, so user namespace. So user namespaces are particularly useful if, so OpenShift and Podman are both we've always been known for having non-root containers, right? That's one of the core things that is a prerequisite and a requirement within any pod or container that's deployed into OpenShift or even with Podman. Even though there's a tremendous number of containers out there that use, the root, ID, user ID 0 inside of that container for starting their application and stuff like that. So user namespace effectively allows you to remap those user IDs at the cluster level. So within my container, I can be root. I can start my web server, my Apache web server using the root user, which is always a great idea, inside of the container. But at the system, it's running with UID 1000 or whatever I have that user namespace remapped to. So to me, this is a huge one with simplifying, bringing, I'm going to say, other like non-OpenShift optimized from a security standpoint pods, container images into OpenShift.
Yep.
Just one less hoop to jump through, in my opinion. Let's see what else have we got through here. Traffic management for AI/ML. I don't know very much about this one. I know there's Gateway API inference extensions and the Gateway API stuff. There's a huge amount of things that are happening with Gateway API that I have not been able to wrap my head around because I'm currently trying to figure out UDN and dive down into the intricacies of UDN, user-defined networking. So that's an interesting one. That's somewhere on my future list of things to learn about. But Gateway API is definitely an interesting one. We should probably invite Mark on to talk about that one.
Yeah. I looked into Gateway API for I think it was Connectivity Link, and just very very quickly, it's just a lot. There's so much to it.
Yeah. Yep, and it's the OpenShift Gateway AI implementation is Istio, but not to be confused with Service Mesh, which is also built off of Istio. Well, Service Mesh 3 is now ambient Istio. So BGP support. So this one's really cool. This is one that the virtualization space, we've claimed this one, but it's also really important in the telco side of things, so doing CNFs and VNFs. So effectively what this does is it allows CUDN to be used, so cluster user-defined networks, to use BGP. Excuse me, they don't even have to be cluster user-defined networks. It is the primary user-defined network in a namespace, whether it's a cluster one or not. So effectively, it's able to participate in BGP. So this is really cool because effectively, what I'm able to do is at that upstream router, I delegate a set of subnets, right? I delegate a slash 16, 18, 20, whatever, to my OpenShift cluster. And then that OpenShift cluster then uses BGP in order to advertise back the subnets that it's carving up. So I create a user-defined network for namespace Sully, and that UDN is assigned, some, here, look in our example, 10.10.2.0/24, and any IPs, any pods or VMs that get assigned inside of there, it automatically advertises those back up and out. So super useful for directly connecting, in particular, virtual machines, but also, any CNFs and stuff like that, any pod really, directly connecting those to the rest of the network. They have a robust roadmap of things to do here as well. I don't know if it's mentioned on this particular one, but I know things like EVPN are being talked about as well. We should have a what's next, the roadmap session coming up relatively soon. Should be sometime in Q4. I don't know precisely when they've got it scheduled. This is another one. Go ahead.
I normally host it. I haven't seen it yet, so.
Yeah. So this is another one. The security folks have had a lot of stuff going on. The networking folks have also had a lot of stuff going on. I've told folks before that I was talking with our BU manager, my boss's boss, and talking about how my team, like, we're struggling to keep up with all the changes that are happening in networking because engineering is just moving too fast. And his response was, "This is the first time I've ever heard anybody say engineering is moving too fast." Like, there's been huge changes in the networking side of things, and
Yeah.
they are like, BGP it's an art form all unto itself, and now integrating it with all the things that are happening at the OV and Kubernetes level, and looking at like creating whole new VRF. You can see here, like, import routes to the provider network default pod or designated VRF, right? Each one of my primary UDNs can have its own VRF table if I want. So like, it becomes, it's yet another fractal built on top of a fractal built on top of a fractal of technologies that are happening. So it's hugely powerful. I know I like to think that I understand networking, but I'm no networking expert. But as we get more and learn more and showcase different use cases, I definitely want to bring that here to the live stream.
Yeah, I think it's cool too how like Metal LB is just taken off within OpenShift networking too, which I think is pretty cool, like for the BGP support. So it's cool to see that project's got legs.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out what's going on with the ZTWM. Like here, you can see the Spire spiffy stuff that you were mentioning before. I don't know enough about it to be able to speak to it.
Yeah.
BYOIDC. So 2-node with Arbiter. This is another one that I wanted to talk about. So for a long time, right, OpenShift 4 only ever had 3 control plane nodes. And then we added the ability to do single node OpenShift. So single node OpenShift, where it's one node, it is both a control plane and a worker node. Even if I add additional worker nodes to that cluster, there's still only a single node, only a single control plane there. It's only one instance of etcd, etc. There was and has not been a 2-node option available for OpenShift clusters. So I either had 1 node or I had 3 nodes or more. Recent versions, we can now do 4 and 5 node control planes as well. So 2-node with Arbiter is the first step into 2-node architectures that we have here. So effectively what this does is I am creating a 3-node OpenShift cluster, but I'm designating one of the nodes as being an Arbiter only. So you can see over here, it's a small Arbiter node because it's effectively only running the etcd instance inside of there. So there's a couple of caveats with this first. So it's I believe it's GA now with OpenShift 4.20. First, we don't support adding compute nodes to a 2-node with Arbiter cluster yet. So please keep that in mind. This third node can be physical or virtual. So, if these two nodes, nodes 1 and 2, are physical, I can have node 3 deployed as a virtual machine somewhere. Ideally, you would want to make sure that these are separate things, so that way I can tolerate, failure and stuff like that. You can see down here, so there is a number of storage providers that are also supporting, or very soon will be supporting, this 2-node architecture. So you can see Portworx and IBM Storage Fusion both support. Sorry, Portworx is GA. IBM Fusion is developer preview, and then Arctera InfoScale is coming in another month or so. When we'll be able to use the OpenShift version of Cert Manager to set certs on routes? I thought you could already do that.
Thought you could. I'm looking it up right now. I remember when it first came out, you couldn't, but like you had to apply the cert to the ingress. It was weird.
Yeah.
Let me look. I'm pretty sure you can though.
Okay. We haven't had, and when the product management team presents the what's next presentation, they'll talk more about this. I believe it was announced as developer preview with OpenShift 4.20, but there is also, I think it's the shortened form is TNF, two node with failover. So we can find out some more information there. I don't know if it's in this deck or not. I don't remember. But that is effectively a 2-node cluster that does not have an arbiter. It uses rel HA, which is what is rel HA, Johnny?
Oh my God. Pacemaker.
Pacemaker. Thank you. I was thinking heartbeat, but no, I was close. It has something to do with the heart. Anyways, I believe it uses pacemaker on the back end to keep to determine which node is the alive one, if you will. OpenShift virtualization. So you can see there's a couple of things that I wanted to pull out inside of here and highlight, in addition to like the workload balancing that works with OpenShift, or that works with VMs, as well as live migration to specific node, even though you just saw that there's a bug that I encountered. Here's the VM workload balancing. So migrate large VMs up to 10 times faster. So this is working in conjunction with our storage partners so that they can do the storage offload work. So for example, I believe Hitachi was the first one of our partners that successfully did this. And essentially I have my VM disk on my Hitachi storage system, and it's connected into my existing virtualization environment. When I go to using migration toolkit for virtualization, import my VM into OpenShift virtualization, the storage array doesn't actually move it, right? The storage array just kind of flips over and says, oh, here is that disk over here, without having to do any sort of data copy or anything like that, at least not at the OpenShift level. I don't, each storage vendor I suspect is going to implement this slightly differently. Maybe some of them, I'll pick on NetApp because I know NetApp really well. I would suspect it's something like a single file flex clone or something like that, where it's creating a snapshot effectively, but it's all just block pointers in that instance, rather than any kind of copy. But definitely an interesting one, being able to showcase copies or excuse me, imports movement that's happening that much faster. Oh, this is another interesting one. So I did not realize this. I had never even thought about it until recently when somebody asked about it internally on Slack. But previously, we didn't have the ability to just disconnect a network adapter for a virtual machine. Either it had a NIC, and that NIC was connected to a network attachment definition and could do what it needed, or it didn't have a NIC. But now, so here, we'll switch over to the virtualization view. So I can come here to my virtual machines. We'll pick a VM and go to configuration and network, and I can set link down. So I can disconnect my NIC from the network, unplug the cable from that network adapter. And you can see they've added this little icon here. Collapse this so that way it's easier to see. So they've added this little icon here that indicates the state of the network adapter. I thought that was really cool. I never noticed that wasn't there before. Oh yeah, the Vert folks did their own What's New session that was on rate stream, I think. So if you want to go and check that out. Let's see, I don't want to scroll through slides. There were some other things that I pulled out that I wanted to talk about. Bare metal, so there's Metal 3 or Metal Cubed firmware updates that now address network adapter or NIC firmware. So it's been, I think since 4.18, they added the ability for Metal Cubed to do firmware management inside of OpenShift for those bare metal hosts. This is just them expanding that to cover other things. So historically, it can do things like manage BIOS, manage BMC, etc. Now it can do network adapters. I'm sure they have more stuff on the roadmap there as well. vSphere added multi-NIC virtual machines with IPI. This is one that folks have been asking about for a while. It used to be that if I wanted to have a virtual machine inside of, if I wanted to deploy a OpenShift cluster on VMware, and I needed my compute nodes to have multiple network adapters, there was several different workarounds that you had to do, ranging from manually provision the nodes with whatever configuration they need and join them to the cluster, just like you would with UPI, to modifying the template VM that it was using in order to add additional network adapters. So now we can do that seamlessly inside of there. This is an important one, in my opinion, for things like, oh, my guest, or my pods, my applications need direct access to a private storage network for NFS or iSCSI or something like that. Or just additional, again, VNF, CNF type of workloads. Let's see, there was another one that I pulled out. Let's see how it shows up. Nope. No, they call it hitless for some reason. Hitless TLS certificate rotation. So you can see 0 API server downtime during certificate updates. I feel like this is, if you haven't hit this one, you would never know it. But if you do encounter it, this is a significant change. So you can see even under heavy loads or in single node OpenShift deployments, effectively what happens when the TLS certificate for the API expires, or I think it refreshes halfway through the expiration. But when it rotates, it would have to blip the API server. And in a single node OpenShift, that means that kind of everything pauses for those 30 to 60 seconds. For other clusters where there's a lot of API activity happening, I'm looking in your general direction, Argo CD. It can cause again, just a ripple effect of issues that can potentially not necessarily cause harm, but just extra things to keep track of while I'm doing updates and stuff like that. So this helps to address that. I think I made it through a good chunk of my list here, Johnny. You got anything?
The other one that I was going to talk about was the OC Mirror V2, and it was really just kind of talking about like what the features that they added, where when you're doing on-disk caching, before you could start it, and if you had a typo or if you made any mistake, you wouldn't know it until it finally got through like the caching. And so they've added it to where now it'll do like a pre-flight check before it even does anything. So it'll tell you if you've typed your host name wrong, or if your certs don't match, or if you've got a password incorrect or whatever, which is that's a big deal, right? Especially if you've ever done this and if you're like me and you type terribly and you're known for typos, and it sucks getting like 45 minutes into a caching process just to find out that you messed something up. So that was a pretty big deal to be able to actually do that pre-flight check and be able to mirror things, knowing that the stuff should work.
Yeah, I'm looking at chat because I realized I had it scrolled up, so I missed the last several.
I wonder if that link got cut off.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube especially.
Yeah.
Because in R208, you are on YouTube. YouTube has a 200 character limit, and it doesn't care what's after those 200 characters. it cuts it off.
Yeah. So R280 or 208R, sorry, I will post the links in the show notes after we're done. So like when you go back into YouTube and you look at it in the description, I'll have the links to everything in there. Yeah, it was I think 418 or 419. Our Hope 9 shared a link for 419, where it's an extra block in the spec to allow for the new certificates. So yeah, when Cert Manager first released, when the Red Hat build of OpenShift or the Red Hat build of Cert Manager released, it definitely did not support routes, and I took a couple iterations, but I think it's been at least since like 418, but definitely 419, 420. Again, I'll put the link to the docs in the show notes when we're done.
Yeah. This is a random aside, but because I was giving feedback to the update folks the other day about just the update process in general and all that. I never noticed before, but we have the ability to configure the update server. So it's now a super simple click and paste type of thing to point at an OSUS location. So OSUS is the OpenShift update service. OpenShift update service. So, oh wow, those are some old documents. 4.7. All right, we'll go with 4.7 and see what happens. Bump up to 4.20. See, that's what I get for trying to search the internet.
Don't Google.
I know, right? So OSUS is a part of the OSUS. It is a part of the update process that provides the update graph data into the cluster. So what is the update graph data? If I go to access.redhat.com/labs, and if I come down here and I search for OpenShift Container Platform, and then I have this OpenShift Container Platform update graph. I don't know that this is actually using the data on the back end from the graph server or not, but this is how I'm going to illustrate it, which is basically it creates this update dependency tree and graph based on all of the things inside of the cluster. So the way that I like to illustrate this is if I look at this update path, right, I'll choose here, stable 419, and I'm going to go with I'm on 419 or 418 dot something. I want to go to 419. Right? It tells me the path that I need to go. So the data in that graph container is what tells the cluster how to go between versions. But it encompasses far more than just the primary cluster version. It has a whole bunch of data inside of there. The precise data that it uses is actually on GitHub. If I go to the OpenShift organization inside of here and I search for Cincinnati. So we have this Cincinnati graph data. This is the data that it's using inside of there. So the Cincinnati graph data, you can see is the update protocol designed to facilitate automatic updates. And there's a bunch of data in here about how it works and all the other stuff inside of here. But effectively, OSUS pulls this data and then makes it available offline so that I can go in without, in a disconnected environment or in a, I'm going to say a pseudo disconnected environment. I can very quickly and easily point at that update server, the one that I have on, under my control. Why is that important? Not everybody wants to be dependent on the internet and WAN connectivity for doing cluster updates. So as Jonny was saying, using OC Mirror in conjunction with an OpenShift update service, graph data clone, that allows you to do all of those updates offline. So that way, maybe I only have one cluster, but I don't, my WAN bandwidth isn't great, or I've been burnt before because, Quay went down, or maybe I have 1,000 clusters and I really don't want to have to pull the same 1,000 images 1,000 times across my WAN bandwidth. Instead, I'm going to mirror everything locally and have my local mirror take care of it. So both of those, super helpful use cases. But again, I really appreciate that we now have a GUI option for this. That's convenient. But that's all I got. OpenShift 4.20 had a ton of changes that happened inside of there. These slides kind of only scratch the surface associated with it. Jonny and I both looked through, so a little bit of sausage making. Inside of Red Hat, we have a thing called whole company readiness process. The whole company readiness process happens for every release of every Red Hat product. And it's basically designed to ensure that folks, particularly on the engineering product side, marketing side, support side, et cetera, folks are aware of all of the changes that are happening inside of our products. So we dug through the list of all of the things that happened in our release and pulled out a number of them, which is what you've heard us talk about here. But remember, this is just our biased opinion. I would always recommend to folks go to the release notes and look at the release notes. So if we look at this release notes here, we'll wait for the doc site to load. Inside of here is going to be the nitty-gritty details of the changes that have happened. So inside of here, not only do we have new features and enhancements, and it goes through and breaks out a whole bunch of stuff, like network policy support for LVM storage operator, if that's important and relevant to you. But so we have new features and enhancements, notable technical changes. I don't know who determines the threshold for notable, but importantly, deprecated and removed features. I always encourage folks to go look at these because it tells you what is going to be removed at some point in the future. So for example, if I scroll down through here, I'm just gonna pick one of these at random. Here, IP table support. It's been deprecated for 3 releases now. At some point in the future, it's going to be removed. The rule of thumb, typically we try not to remove things without having them be listed as deprecated for at least 3 releases. But you can see C Group v1, that went GA and I think 4.12, it was a default in I think 4.14, if I remember correctly. I see you nodding your head, Jonny. So you can see it was deprecated. So if it went default in 4.14, GA in 4.12, it was deprecated for another 4 releases before it was, support for C Group v1 is removed in 4.19. But this table, in my opinion, is to look at with each one of the releases.
And each operator has their own release notes too, and most of them do a good job of the same type of thing where they have a deprecation table and stuff like that. So
yep.
Some of them don't, and it's annoying, but.
Yep, so tech preview features and status, you can see down here, all the things that are tech preview. I don't think they list developer preview in here though, because developer preview is even earlier than technology preview. So you can see here metrics collection profiles. You can also tell when it went into GA from inside of here. To your point about other things having release notes, I'll pick on virtualization. But you can see virtualization has its own release notes inside of here. And you can see all the things that happen inside of there. If I come up to observability, because each one of these, I don't remember which one of these it is, but because observability has its own set of stuff, I think it has its own set of release notes somewhere inside of here. I'm just not clicking in the right place. Oh, here we go, probably under the observability operator. But that's a wild guess. Yeah, standalone documentation. That's why I didn't see them in there, because it's over here. That's another thing that I've started to notice. We're starting to separate out a few things into their own sets of documentation within here. So workload availability is one that I noticed. So we have this workload availability for Red Hat OpenShift. You remember, these are the this is the set of documentation that are referenced a few weeks ago when we did the demo of self-node remediation, node health check, all that type of stuff. So they are starting to separate the documentation for particularly large things into its own. I don't know. I wonder how large this set of full docs is PDF. It's always entertaining to me, right? Oh, it's only 61 pages. That's not terrible.
That's not bad.
No. You remember, it's been, what, 3 years or so? There was, at some point on the live stream, I went to the install docs, and I did the same thing with the install docs, and it was like 4,000 pages.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, deployment configs is going away. Yep, we're just catching up on chat there. So I think that's all the stuff I had flagged for this one. Like I said, I know there's some additional topics that we're going to be deep diving into as we go forward, in addition to the ones that we were kind of thinking out loud here on the stream.
Yeah, I'd like to do the like the global hub management. Once I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have like 5 clusters up, basically. Like, all right, I'm out of time.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool to do, just because I think, well, one, it'd be kind of fun just to mess with and see it, but yeah, kind of cool to walk through. Like, all right, what do I want to? How does it work? How do you do it?
I was looking for. Is this what I want? Yeah, this is the right cluster. There's another thing. Oh, for anybody who's using OpenShift virtualization, you may have noticed this virtual machine networks thing pop up with OpenShift virtualization 4.20.0. This is an error. It'll disappear in 4.20.1. So they are doing significant improvements and changes to the UI for managing networking with bare metal OpenShift virtualization. But this is just this doesn't actually work.
Gotcha.
I think the way that the engineering manager described it to me was it leaked into this release. I don't know what that means, but okay.
Whoops.
So that was one thing that came to mind. As always, if you'll notice, when I was looking at one of these, now I lost it. Anyways, when I showed the update graph stuff, and I selected 420 stable, and then you saw that there was no upgrade path from 419 to 420 and stable. It's still true. They haven't unlocked the stable update edges yet. So if you want to update to OpenShift 4.20 now, you need to make sure to use the fast channel. Remember, the fast channel is fully supported. So if something goes wrong, you pick up the phone, call us. We will help you with that. But it typically takes, usually the window I give is 45 to 90 days after release is when the stable update channel opens up. All right. Well, it's this is one of the longest streams we've had, or at least one of the longest ones I've been on. I don't know how long y'all ended up going last week, because I was watching for the first part, and then I had to drop for my meeting and everything and missed. So
yeah, I think we only went maybe an hour, maybe a little over.
Okay. Anyways, so thank you everybody for joining us live today. If you have any questions after the stream, if you're not watching us live and want to send us a question or ask us a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. By far the easiest way is email sully@redhat.com or Jonny, Jonny @redhat.com. Yeah, that's all I got, Jonny. Next week, what are we talking about next week?
We got Portworx next week, and then
Awesome.
Turkey Day the week after, and then always want to call him Tony Stark. Christian Stark from ACM is going to come on and do the multi-cluster observability with ACM. So that's going to be another good one.
Yep. Turkey Day coming up. You going to celebrate from your new location?
Yeah, but probably not on Thanksgiving. I'll probably have to do it on like Saturday or something like that. So my son goes to university, and then my daughter's in school, and they don't get out. So yeah, we'll have to wait till they're home.
Yeah. We're frying a turkey this year, so
So good. It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it.
yep, I agree. It's been a couple of years since I did it, so I haven't burnt down the house. I've done it at least half a dozen times. Knock on wood, I haven't burnt down the house yet. So always make sure that the oil level is correct and make sure it's not frozen, and then it won't. Yep. Then it won't boil over and cause a fire and or explode. Both bad things to happen.
Yeah, the big thing is people panic when they go to drop the bin in. So as long as just maintain. Yeah, it's the best way to do it. It really is. It's so good. The peanut oil makes it. Yeah, it's good.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it and making all the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you everybody. We will see you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And Johnny, any last words while I figure out what buttons I'm clicking?
No, it's good to be back. Glad that we've got some consistency going. Next couple weeks are going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to the Portworx talk and Christian coming back. So yeah, awesome. Good stream today. Catch you next week.
Bye.